We are on to our next math adventure. Today, we are going to be working with percents again, but we're going to solve percent problems using proportions. Now remember, a proportion simply means that we have a ratio set equal to a ratio. And so when we are using proportions here, one of our ratios will be our percent. And that means we're going to have some number compared to 100. That part's easy to find out. Now, when we go take a look at our other ratio, we're just going to compare a part to the whole. So some key words that we're going to want to look at today are the words of and the word is, because we're actually going to be getting our percent equations written in word form. And the word of, when we're building our proportions, anything that follows it represents our whole, which means that's going to go in the bottom of our ratio. And anything that follows the word is represents our part, and that's going to go at the top of the ratio. So here's an example of what I'm looking at. So say we want to find a percent of a number. Well, we're going to get a statement that says, what percent of 7 is 4? First thing I do is I clue in on that word of and that word is. So when I look at of, anything that follows that word of has to be my whole. And I know that I'm going to put that down in the bottom of the ratio. And anything that follows the word is, that has to represent my part. And I'm going to put that in the top of the ratio. Now remember, I don't know what the percent is. So there's my unknown. So when I go to set up my proportion, 1/2 of your proportion always has to be your percent, that comparison to 100. Well, here, I know we're going to compare a number to 100. I just don't know what that number is. That's my unknown. The other side I can pull together just by looking at my two numbers given and putting those numbers in the proper places based off the word of and is. So I get 4 to 7 on the other side. Now we're going to use our cross products to just solve. So remember, when we're solving proportions, we do multiplication with those cross or diagonal numbers. So we're going to do 100 times 4 is equal to 7 times x. And when we do 100 times 4, we get 400. 7 times x is 7x. Now remember, our goal is to solve for that x. So we're going to use inverse operations, and I'm going to divide both sides by 7. And when I actually do the division there, I get x equals 51.142 thousandths. Okay, we just need to round to the nearest percent. And all I'm going to do is take that 57, add my percent sign. We don't even have to do any conversions because we were already comparing that to 100. So x has to be 57%. So 57% of 7 is 4. Now sometimes they want us to find the part. That top part is missing. So it says, what number is 65% of 245? Well, 65% is the easiest one to put together because we're just going to do 65 over 100. Now my other side, remember, I'm looking for the word of and is. Well, right here I see the word of, and I know anything that follows the word of has to be my whole. So I'm going to put 245 in the bottom where I would have my whole. My unknown is my part, which is x. So again, we're going to use our cross products to multiply. So 100 times x is equal to 65 times 245. When you multiply those two together, you get 15,925 equals 100x, but I'm not done yet because remember, I need to find x. So I'm going to go and I'm going to divide both of sides by 100. And it's so easy to divide by 100 because remember, it's just moving that decimal point 2 places over. So right now my decimal point's right here, and when I divide by 100, my decimal point goes right there. So I know x is equal to 159 and 25 hundredths. They may ask you to round to the nearest whole number, and if that's the case, x equals 159. And that would be my part. So 65% of 245 is 159. Sometimes my whole is missing. So if we're going to find a whole, it means they gave me my percent, they gave me my part. So when I look at this, 207 is 46% of what number? Well, again, that 46% is the easiest one to find. When I see 46%, I know 46 over 100. Now, I look for those keywords of and is. Well, I see is there, but what followed it was my percent. So I'm going to keep looking, and I see the word of right here. And it says what number? That's my unknown. So I know that my whole has to be the thing that is missing. So I'm going to put an X where my whole is. That first number, 207, has to be my part, and my 46% would be 46 over 100. So again, I'm going to do my cross products in order to solve. So 46 times X is equal to 100 times 207. I get 46X equals 20,700. I'm not done because I want to get X by itself. So I'm going to divide by 46 on both sides. And when I'm done, I actually get X equals 450. So that would be my whole, which makes sense because it should be larger than my part is. So those are three ways that we can use that single concept of the proportion to solve for either a percent that's unknown, a part that's unknown, or a whole that's unknown. That's why the proportion is one of my favorite ways of actually solving percent problems, because it's useful. Just that one format can solve all different types of problems. Challenge is up to you. Are you up for it? Good luck.